Hi, everybody. It's your professor visiting for the first time in a couple of weeks with an occasional video. I just wanted to respond to your GR exchange, your RRs actually, your reading responses, and prep you for this week's GR exchanges, and also take a look at your RR4s, your reading response 4s coming up next Sunday night. Looks like Group 1 focused mostly on Winthrop, and Group 3 focused mostly on Rowlandson, and Group 2 seemed to be the one that focused most on all three texts, Winthrop, Rowlandson, and a bit of coverage on the New England Primer as well. So obviously as you go through the GR3s and think about what you want to write about for your first installment tomorrow night, Wednesday night, and your follow-up installment Friday night, you might want to look at the other groups this time around because there was a significant amount of coverage of some other authors that your group may not have looked at as much. But you know the drill by now. I think you're getting the hang of these GR exchanges. They're really an opportunity to pay multiple visits throughout the week to the GR forum and make it a little bit more of a conversational kind of exchange. So I'm perfectly okay with folks making multiple visits and saying brief things, as long as it adds up to something like 250 words for that GR forum, you should be fine. Make sure in the GR3 that and I mentioned this in the announcement that accompanies this video, but make sure that you try to make some kinds of comparisons, even just tentative ones, between the Chesapeake region of week 2 and the New England region of week 3, because there might be something to the idea that even in these pre-Republic colonial era texts that we've been looking at, there may be just some incipient differences going on between the North and the South. And if you look at it as Unit 2 having been more Southern Virginian ideology, and this unit we just finished being a little bit more New England, you might be seeing some of the seeds of difference between just the way the South was founded and the way the North was founded as we move later into the course. Just a theory. Okay, looking forward to week 4 and Unit 4 is mainly about the differences between Jonathan Edwards and Benjamin Franklin. One interesting way to look at it is Edwards is born in 2003. Edwards is born in 1703. And Franklin is born in 1706. So they're just 3 years apart. The Edwards that you'll be, and I think you'll see a lot of differences despite that narrow difference in their year of birth. Partly because what we're reading from Edwards was written earlier in his life, but partly because they really do go in two very different directions in their thinking. The reading response questions for week 4, as you'll see on the course document that you've been using, this time is the first time that I embed a few little mini lecture points into the reading response questions. Not really lectures, but definitions of some key terms that will play a role later in the course, and will play a role starting this week. Terms like absolutism, relativism, empirical, rationalist. These are terms that are defined in the questions, so try to apply them to Edwards and Franklin as you try to distinguish some differences between those two writers. The external links will be somewhat helpful this time, I think. There's an interesting set of resolutions that Jonathan Edwards wrote when he was 19 or 20 years old. So roughly 1722, 23. These are kind of interesting to compare to Franklin's scheme for moral perfection that he writes about in the excerpt that I'm having you read from our book. Part 2 of his autobiography. Remembering that he's writing that as an old man looking back on his youth. So even though you might be able to compare the types of resolutions that Edwards had with those that Franklin had, or says he had when he was a younger man, you'll also see some differences about where where those resolutions are based, what sort of foundation they have. So take a look at that. Franklin's entire autobiography is available not only in our book, but also at the external link that I've included in Unit 4 if you would prefer to look at it electronically. And it's the kind of thing, like many things in this course, that you could easily download to a Kindle or a Nook if you want to go that route for free and read it that way if you'd rather kind of have a little bit of portability about your reading. I think there's a little bit of a piece from John Locke, just a couple of pages from an essay concerning human understanding that I'd like for you to take a look at. It's almost functioning like an external link. There's not any questions related to Locke, but if you want to write about what you think he's up to, I'm including him, and I think the book's including him as a foundational figure of the beginning of the 18th century. So he's writing right around 1700, and his ideas about how sensation and perception work have widespread implications in religion, as you'll see Edwards using Lockean principles in his description of his salvation experience. But Locke also has implications in science and empiricism. The scientific method is essentially based on Locke's work. He's got implications in aesthetics and language and linguistics. He's a very important figure, and not even American, but he's included in the American Lit Anthology, I think, because of his importance to many American writers. And finally, I think the final thing I would point out is that your reading from Franklin that you actually have to read for Sunday is just known as Part 2 of his autobiography. In the external link, it's actually Chapter 6, if you want to pick it up and read it from there. But it's prefaced by these two letters from Abel James and Benjamin Vaughan, which I do want you to take a look at because they almost function as kind of blurbs of a sort, advertising the need for Franklin after the Revolution to go back and continue his autobiography and resume his effort to sort of convey to the youth of America, a young America, a brand new America, a post-revolutionary America, what it means to be American. So read it in that sense. That's my phone, so I'll see you later, and I'll put in another installment soon. Thanks.